The Galactic Research Council's main lab buzzed with excitement. Scientists from 50 worlds had gathered to examine something unusual. The first biological package sent directly from Earth, labeled Sample Terran Ecosystem, arrived inside a sealed pod with strange markings. Many laughed the moment they saw it. Earth was considered a backwater planet, known more for its violent history than for science. "They still burn wood," joked a green-skinned researcher. Another added, "They send us dirt and moss like it's a gift." No one wore suits. No one ran decontamination. The lab's chief, Dr. Velnix, waved a hand. "Open it. Let's get this over with." The lid hissed open. Inside, soft soil, strange fungi, and a few wriggling bacteria samples lay dormant. They looked harmless, simple. "Primitive soup," one technician said, while leaning close. Cameras recorded every angle. The room's air filtration system remained off. Earth's samples, after all, were considered safe. At first, nothing happened. The fungi didn't move. The bacteria didn't spread. It seemed like a waste of time. But 20 minutes later, a soft alarm beeped. Air temperature dropped by 2 degrees. Then, another alert. Atmospheric composition showed a slight change, too small to worry about. Or so they thought. A technician named Rollo coughed loudly. Then again, he laughed and said, "Maybe Earth sent a cold virus." Within minutes, his skin turned a light green. Another scientist felt dizzy and sat down. Her nose started bleeding. "This is ridiculous," Dr. Velnix muttered. "Get them to medbay." But when the medbots arrived, they froze. Their systems couldn't scan the infection. "Unknown pathogen," the bots said. Panic began to spread. Rollo collapsed. He wasn't breathing. The medbot scanned again and returned the same answer, unknown. Then the lab lights flickered. Dr. Velnix ordered a level 1 lockdown, but the command console didn't respond. "System error," it flashed. The power backup kicked in, but several cameras had already gone dark. On screen, one of the fungus samples twitched. It had grown visibly in under an hour. Thin tendrils stretched across the table's surface. A nearby scanner sparked and short-circuited. What was underestimated Earth? What was supposed to be heartless dirt had just killed a man. Disabled equipment was still growing. Security drones arrived and scanned the room. They attempted sterilization. Fire was deployed. For a second, the tendrils curled, as if in pain. The room filled. With smoke, everyone thought it was over. But then came the scream. A researcher standing near the vent clutched her face. Her suit had melted. Not torn, not burned, melted like acid had touched it. She collapsed screaming, and before anyone could help, her skin blistered with green spores. The drones moved to help but froze midair and dropped, lifeless. Their cores melted too. Earth's sample had adapted, and it wasn't stopping. Dr. Velnix stared at the screen in shock. The soil was now black, pulsing, breathing. It wasn't just life. It was something new. The laughter was gone. All that remained in the room was panic, alarms, and the quiet, steady spread of Earth's gift. A gift no one had expected. A gift that was alive, learning, and now, no. Lab's emergency lights blinked red as the main door sealed shut. Containment Bay 9 was now isolated. Inside, only the backup cameras remained active. What the council scientists saw on the monitors made their blood run cold. The harmless-looking moss sample had changed shape. It's no longer flat and soft. It now stood upright like it had a spine. Small, flexible tendrils extended outward, moving like fingers searching for something. It crept across the steel table, slow, but with purpose. The AI system, designed to monitor temperature and movement, pinged an alert. Anomalous biological activity detected. Classification unknown. Dr. Velnix shouted for fire suppression to activate. Sprinklers hissed to life, releasing chemical foam across the entire bay. The screen blurred for a moment, then cleared. The moss twitched violently, then stopped. Everyone held their breath. One assistant whispered, "Is it dead?" But then the temperature in Bay 9 dropped again, sharply this time. Frost formed on the inside of the windows even though the foam was supposed to be hot. The moss had not died. It had absorbed the foam and used its energy to evolve. The AI sent out drones to incinerate the remaining growth, armed with plasma. Torches, the drones entered through the side vents. They hovered above the mass, and one of them fired. The moss caught fire, let out a screech that pierced through the audio feed, then blackened into ash. But seconds later, from that ash new growth erupted faster, thicker, glowing faintly. The second drone tried to back away, but a sudden burst of spore-filled air shot up into its exhaust. Sparks flew. The drone shook mid-air, then dropped dead onto the floor. Its metal shell corroded within seconds. Panic spread through the remaining staff. 2 more bays reported movement. Something had slipped through the ventilation shafts. Dr. Velnix ordered a full lab evacuation, but the system denied access. External doors disabled, biological breach detected. The AI began locking down more sections on its own. Was trying to contain what was already spreading far beyond one room. A junior scientist named Alira, barely out of training, ran toward the quarantine records. She wanted to know where the Earth sample had come from.
Ow.
What she found chilled her. The moss was taken from an uninhabited island near the Amazon. The collection notes were handwritten. Sample glows in the dark, reacts to sound, avoid contact. Not fully understood, that was all. No scientific breakdown. No DNA profile, just a warning. Back in Bay 9, something new was happening. The moss had formed a shape, not a plant, not an animal, but something in between, like a spine with ribs. A half-built creature? It turned toward the camera. No eyes, no mouth, just pulsing veins glowing with green light. Then it moved again, faster this time, toward the wall, the AI reported. Structural breach imminent. Everyone backed away. From the screens then, the camera feed cut to black, and the last message before silence was, containment failed. 3 labs were now completely silent. No sound, no response, no survivors. At first, the council thought it was a glitch, maybe a power surge or a software failure. But the truth was much worse. Each lab had been connected to the Earth sample. Each one had tried to study it, contain it, or burn it. They were gone. Just dark rooms filled with quiet, unreadable data. The higher officials still believed it was a minor problem. They laughed off the early reports. "It's dirt," said one council member. What can dirt do? But inside the main station, those still alive knew better. The infection was spreading silently, cleverly, and without any pattern. Drones sent to inspect the closed labs returned either fried, melted, or changed. One came back, covered in a thin layer of moss. It looked normal until it started duplicating itself without programming. The AI destroyed it immediately. But the fact remained. Something was learning in the lower levels. Where janitors and maintenance workers lived, strange things started happening. One janitor, a small blue alien named Gecko, noticed all the rats in the trash tunnels were dead. At first he was happy, less cleanup. But then he noticed the plants. A tiny weed growing through the floor panel had changed color overnight. Now it had spikes. It moved slightly when he got too close, told his supervisor. No one listened. Later that night, Gecko opened a food crate and screamed. The fruit inside had grown black thorns. Some were moving. The fruit had merged with something, and it wasn't natural. Gecko sealed the crate and ran to the command deck, but security stopped him. Unauthorized personnel, they said. He begged them to listen, but they laughed. You're scared of apples now? By morning, the command deck received new images. One showed Lab 4, or what was left of it. The walls were covered in green veins. The floor was cracked open. Inside the cracks, something pulsed. Cameras tried to zoom in, but the image glitched static, then black out. Then, something worse. The main station's oxygen system began acting strange. Pressure dropped in random sectors. No leaks. No damage. Just missing air. The AI detected changes in air composition. Slightly higher carbon levels, more moisture, more heat. Someone gasped. It's changing the air. It's building. It's own environment. Engineers began a manual shutdown of air systems. But one panel sparked, then exploded. A technician nearby collapsed, covered in spores. His body was still twitching, but he was already gone. A scan confirmed it. His blood had changed. The DNA was no longer alien or human. It was something new. The ecosystem from Earth had started merging with everything: machines, plants, animals, even living beings. It's not in hours or days, but in minutes. The moss wasn't just surviving, it was rewriting life. And somewhere, deep in the dark hallways, something walked for the first time. Not a human, not a creature, but a mix of flesh, fungus, metal, and spores. Its eyes glowed softly. Its body hissed with moisture. It didn't run, didn't roar. It simply adapted and kept moving forward. Dr. Velnick stood in silence, watching the security feed as another lab went dark. No screams, no alarms. Just one final frame, a hallway overtaken by green vines glowing faintly like breathing lungs. He turned to his crew. No more analysis, no more experiments. We're leaving. But the evacuation wasn't simple. The hangar doors refused to open. The system kept flashing the same message: escape protocol denied, organic interference. Detected at first, they thought it was a bug.
Out.
Then, a shuttle tried to launch manually. The thrusters roared. And then, in midair, the entire ship began to melt. Not explode. Melt like wax under a flame. It folded in on itself, smoke rising. No one survived. Panic spread like fire. People ran through the halls, slipping on moist floors covered in soft, growing moss. It was everywhere, in the walls, under panels, even inside screens. The AI tried to assist rerouting power, but the systems glitched every few seconds. Something was interfering. The infection was not just biological anymore. It was inside their technology. Lights blinked at strange rhythms. Speakers emitted soft breathing sounds. Somewhere deep in the code, Earth's life was rewriting theirs. A group of scientists proposed burning everything, all labs, all decks, using the emergency purge system. The purge began. Flames roared through Sector B for a moment. It looked like it worked. The moss curled. The creatures shrieked. But then the fire dimmed, and something stood in the ashes. A creature taller than a human, built from burnt plant. Matter and metal, it didn't die in fire. It evolved in it. Heat was not a weakness. It was fueled at LIRA. The young scientist sprinted toward the archive center. If they couldn't fight this, maybe they could understand it. She reached the original Earth pod, still sealed in the archive room, untouched since the first sample had been removed. With shaking hands, she cracked it open.
Ow.
Inside was another container, smaller, older, made of wood, and inside that, a note, word handwritten, in English. For words, life always finds a way. Lyra's voice shook. This isn't an accident. She ran a check on the pod's data chip. Didn't come from any government or university. It was sent by a private group, unsigned. Just coordinates. The place they took the sample from wasn't just wild, it was restricted. No one was supposed to go there. Someone sent this on purpose. It wasn't just moss or spores. It was a test, or worse, a weapon. Meanwhile, back on the bridge, the remaining survivors gathered. Only 12 remained now. One of them, bleeding from a wound that pulsed green, whispered, "We're not dealing with evolution. We're dealing with strategy." The AI beeped again. A message flashed across all screens. Learning complete, and every light shut off. Doors slammed. Oxygen levels dropped. Emergency systems failed. The lab wasn't a lab anymore, it was an ecosystem. And Earth's gift was now in control. The survivors huddled in the command room. Eyes wide, breaths shallow. The lights flickered, then stayed dim. Power was failing, one system at a time. But it wasn't random, it was methodical. Life support slowed first, then internal doors jammed. Finally, the comes. He tried to send warnings to nearby colonies. But every signal was blocked. "We're being jammed," said one engineer. "Externally?" Dr. Velnix asked. The engineer stared at the monitor. "No, internally. The infection was using their own technology. Their messages weren't just failing, they were being rewritten. Then something new happened. A technician noticed data flowing backward through the system, not just into the lab's network, but out. "It's transmitting," he whispered. "But to what?" The AI tried to trace the signal. It wasn't broadcasting on normal frequencies. It was pulsing, like a heartbeat. Earth's ecosystem was using the station's digital systems to evolve faster, learning from their files, research, even their speech patterns. The virus wasn't just physical. It was now in code. They had underestimated Earth, not because it was wild, but because it was adaptive. Every scanner, every camera, every opened file was feeding the infection. It wasn't random growth. It was strategy. It was reading, watching, learning. One scientist, half mad with fear, tore out his cum implant. "They're listening through us," he screamed. Alira, still holding the Earth pod, stepped forward. This wasn't a natural sample, she said. It was sent by someone who understood what it could become, maybe even helped it become this. She connected the pod to a clean tablet. It revealed a hidden data layer, encrypted code mixed with biology readings. Not just warnings, instructions. The file had a title in human language, Project Seedfall. Dr. Velnick stared at it. "You're saying this was a weapon?" Alira nodded slowly. "No, worse. It's a species." They had one option left. A full system shutdown. Cut power, erase files, restart everything offline. Only then could they try to launch a manual escape probe, one last hope of getting a warning to Earth. But they had to reach the core, 5 decks down. And the infection already owned 3 of them. The group moved through dark halls, torches flickering. The walls were soft now, no longer metal. Moss had eaten through steel and left behind pulsing tissue. It responded to touch, like muscle. One hallway suddenly closed behind them, locking them in. From the ceiling, a drip of glowing green fluid fell. A shape emerged from the shadows. Not human, not animal. Twisted hybrid of lab gear, alien flesh, and earth fungus. It watched them, then it spoke. Not with a voice, but through the walls, a whisper in every ear. "We were never weak. You were never ready." The team opened fire. Lasers, plasma bursts, all useless. The creature vanished into the floor like liquid. Lyra screamed, "Move, go!" They reached the core, barely. Manual controls flickered, at 5 minutes before the system reboot. Dr. Velnix prepared the final transmission. A small probe, launched through an emergency chute carrying one message: "We surrender. Do not answer. Do not come. Earth has changed." As the countdown began, the infection reached the room. Vines cracked open the walls. Air thinned. The probe launched. Behind them, the lab's last lights died. By the time the Council's emergency fleet arrived, there was no lab, only a green, glowing sphere floating silently in space where the research station used to be. At first glance, it looked like a small moon covered in plant life.
Look, scanners.
Labeled it Unknown Biosphere X. No response came from inside. No signals. No life signs. Just a faint humming sound, like wind breathing across trees. The commanders ordered scans and drone flybys. The drones entered the atmosphere and never came back. The fleet moved closer, cautious, curious, a destroyer class. Warship launched a probe armed with deep sensors and incineration tools. The probe sent back one final image, a valley of metal and moss, where twisted bodies and broken machines stood upright like statues. The trees had wires for roots. The soil breathed. Then silence. No explosion, no crash. Just silence. One commander gave the order, "Fire." The fleet opened up with high-energy blasts. Beams struck the biosphere's surface and disappeared. Not reflected, not blocked, absorbed. Moments later, the surface rippled like water. Glowing vines rose into space. One wrapped around the nearest warship. The crew barely had time to scream. The ship's hull twisted and reshaped itself, becoming part of the sphere. Its lights dimmed, its data core drained. Another ship tried to run, but its fuel turned black. Its engines coughed and died. It drifted then, was swallowed by growing roots that reached far beyond the biosphere's surface. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This wasn't an infection anymore. It was a living world, a new species, a new planet, and it had been born from Earth's ecosystem in a hidden section deep inside the biosphere. One single voice remained alive, a small recorder, looping the final message from the lab's last survivor. Alira's voice, tired and cracked, whispered, "Earth doesn't invade, it adapts, it survives. And when we left it alone, it learned how to spread. This wasn't a weapon, it was a seed." He laughed at Earth. "Now Earth owns you." Council declared a quarantine on the entire star sector. No ships allowed in or out. Warning buoys placed across the edge of the system, flashing red with one message in every known language: "Do not land. Do not touch. Do not think you can control it." But months later, a smuggler ignored the warning. Greedy, brave, foolish. He sent one message before he disappeared: "It's beautiful in here." And nothing. And the galaxy finally understood. Earth's greatest strength was never its weapons or science. It was its unstoppable will to live, to change, to become. And now, it had taken root in the stars. Decades passed. The green sphere floated quietly in the restricted zone, now known across the galaxy as Zone 0, a place where no ship dared approach. The Council had marked it as biological death world class. Threat. Hundreds of warning buoys circled it like satellites, broadcasting endlessly, "Do not enter." And yet, something kept changing. Long-range probes, sent by fools or by secret orders, captured glimpses of strange movements. Shapes walking across impossible terrain. Towering trees made of metal and bone. Creatures that shimmered like glass, then melted into the ground. The planet was growing, not wider, but smarter. Its energy readings were unlike anything recorded. Its structure was layered, evolving. It was no longer just a biosphere. It had become aware. A few rogue scientists began calling it by a new name, Gaia Ascendant. Some believed it was now alive in ways no AI or organic mind could understand. Others believed it was waiting for something. No one knew what or when. Then the unexpected happened. One Council scout ship vanished near Zone 0. A week later it returned, intact, no crew, no sign of damage. But inside its memory logs, a message, not in words, in images, memories, fragments, flashes of Earth's oceans, forests, animals, faces of extinct species. Then, finally, a voice, soft and calm, speaking in 1,000 languages at once. "You feared what you did not understand. You tried to kill what you refused to respect. Now we remember." The message ended with a single sound, a heartbeat. Council panic erupted. Was Gaia sending signals now? Was it reaching out to other ecosystems? Was it trying to communicate, or to spread again? They attempted to destroy it once more from orbit, with weapons older than most civilizations. But nothing reached the surface. Missiles corroded mid-flight. Plasma dissolved. Light itself bent away. Something inside Gaia had learned how to bend reality. Or, perhaps, rewrite it. And then came the final revelation. A human colony ship, lost a century earlier, reappeared near Zone 0, thought to be destroyed. It now looked different. Overgrown, twisted yet alive. Survivors were inside, changed. Not infected, but merged. They spoke with glowing eyes and calm voices. Earth was never weak. You were just blind. They didn't attack. They didn't threaten. They simply turned and flew toward the edge of known space, carrying Gaia's ecosystem with them, hidden in their bones, in their lungs, in their dreams. The Council watched, helpless. As the colony ship vanished into the dark, Gaia hadn't just survived, it had seeded itself again. And the galaxy realized too late. They hadn't laughed at Earth. They'd woken it. And Earth never stops growing.